Let's go.
Indeed, we are live at 9, which is a little bit later than 5. uh,
There you go.
so,
Just a little.
a little bit. So you wanted to talk about the top 4 in each conference, right?
I was thinking about that. Yeah, that might be a good thing to discuss. Top 4.
Yeah, let's do that.
Super Bowl bound. The contenders.
Yeah, and I think we can.
Time to separate.
Separate
them.
I think we also do the bottom 4 in each conference. So, who we think we go from Super Bowl contenders to 1 overall contenders. So,
okay.
If you want to start, go ahead. You give me who do you think's give me the number 1 in each conference right now as we start week 8.
For like power index, just top team, I could go Baltimore. Or no, sorry. I mean, I got to go Kansas City right now, undefeated.
Okay, I agree. I have Kansas City at 1 in the AFC.
Yeah, another contender I have. I mean, they're leading the AFC South. I want Houston in there personally, so I'm taking the Texans as well.
Okay. Yep, I have Houston at 4.
Yeah, it's 2 out of my 4 already, and then I'll go down the line. I'll go to the AFC North.
Okay.
Baltimore for sure. Baltimore, and then I mean Pittsburgh. They're on the fence, honestly, right now. If I had to make a choice, yes or no, I'd say no. But if their offense comes along, they have such a great defense. They're like on the fringe, like a bubble for me. But I'll definitely go Baltimore as a top 4. I can't put Pitt in the top 4 yet. Maybe in a couple
I agree. I have Baltimore as the 2 and Buffalo at the 3.
Oh yeah, same thing. Yeah, I was gonna finish with the AFC East. Buffalo. That's a no-brainer. They're definitely a legitimate Super Bowl threat.
I think so. I agree. I think everybody. I think the top. I think the top 4 in either of these 4 teams could beat each other head to head.
Yeah, 4 really good teams. And that might be apt to change. Of course, it'll be apt to change. A lot can happen from now just to Sunday.
Oh yeah, of course.
Let alone a month or two. A lot of different scenarios can play out. A couple trades, but right now, as it stands, those are my 4. And then NFC flipping the script over there. I mean, NFC East will keep it local first for me at least.
Sure.
I mean, Washington still has to prolong it and sustain it. They look awesome, but they're so young. I mean, I'm not trying to be too strict with them, but you got to see a little bit more, I think, till when it's like December, if they're still so they're fringe to me. Philly, I think, is still legitimate enough to be in the top 4. I'm going to go with them for now in the East. NFC North, definitely Detroit and Minnesota. So 2 out of my top 4 are going to be those 2. Green Bay, kind of like strange bubble again. Green Bay, I respect them. They're good. They're very good. They're not top 4 for me.
Not yet. I want to see them play this.
Yeah, exactly. They gotta go and earn it still. There's a lot of game to be played. They got to show us a little bit more. Swinging over to the NFC South, Tampa Bay. I like them. We both love Baker pretty much, but I mean losing 2 possible Hall of Famers almost. That's like their identity. Godwin and Big Mike Evans. They might falter. They might lose 3 or 4 out of their next 5 or 6, and they might have trouble getting in. So I can't pick them in that top 4 yet. I guess Atlanta. I'd rather go. Atlanta, I don't really buy much. I'd rather take Seattle and San Fran to close it out in the West. But I mean, what do you think of Atlanta overall? Are they top 4? In the NFC?
No, I don't. I have Seattle, and then my 4 were Detroit, Minnesota, Seattle, Washington, and Philly, because I didn't feel comfortable putting either one over the other, because I like both of them. I like what Washington's defense brings to the table. I think they have a monster defense. I like what Philly's offense has shown the last 2 weeks. I know you're really hard on Sirianni, or however you say his name.
Yeah, it's fine. Sirianni, yeah.
But what I saw last week, whereas I agreed with you the week before, this week, going into this week, and I think there's a lot of frustration there in Philly. But I think a win really, really helps them get where they want to be. A statement win against an arch rival in their ballpark. I really think that solidified for me in my mind. That really solidified Philly as that fourth team in the NFC over anybody else. I think Green Bay's right there, but I want to see them play Minnesota and Detroit before I can give Green Bay a push over Philly or Washington, because I don't know. I don't know if Green Bay if they can go and beat Minnesota and Detroit, then we can talk about them taking that next step, elevating. I am a big Matt LaFleur fan. I think he's a great coach. I think he's done some really nice things with Jordan Love. I think he was the reason why Aaron Rodgers lasted as long as he did in Green Bay, because I think Aaron Rodgers is a one-trick pony, and for as good as he was, Aaron Rodgers is such a prima donna. He's such a diva, and it's all about Aaron Rodgers, and that's all that matters to Aaron Rodgers. He's not out there to feed. He's not out there for everybody to eat. And I, when I look at Matt LaFleur, when I look at MCDC in Detroit, when I think Mike McDonald in Seattle, when I look at that young guy in Washington whose name escapes me, and Sirianni in Philadelphia, they might have their individual issues, but they want the boys to eat, and they want to go out and compete. Yeah. And when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, he doesn't care if everybody eats. If he eats, then it doesn't matter if the rest of the team starves. If he's 18 for 25 with 2 touchdowns and 300 yards, and they lose 35-14, he doesn't care because he got his numbers.
It's all about him. He's a numbers guy. I just think it's interesting. I don't know. It's going to be. I think with Devontae Adams coming to New York, at least some luxury in that is, he's not just going to jump ship. I don't think right away and retire after this, because if they go 6-11, he's going to want one more shot. And now he's got his guy. He's at least back for next year. I was thinking about it this afternoon. I think Rodgers is back for this year and next year. Do you think he would jump ship after this year only? I mean, I think maybe 3 years. I
think he's got probably one more good year in him. I agree with what you're saying. Yeah, next year. I think they signed him to a 1-year extension because I think they had an option for a third year. I think it was a 2-year deal with an option for a third. So they could pick up his option, especially now on the other hand, Aaron Rodgers is a great, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers is a bad quarterback. He's a great quarterback. The problem is that Aaron Rodgers is such a diva. He's such a me guy. He puts the me in team. And when it comes to the guys, when you look at Jared Goff or Jalen Hurts or Patrick Mahomes or Sam Darnold, some of the guys that Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, the guys that have elevated themselves this year, CJ Stroud, there's a lot of everybody eats. Everybody cooks, everybody eats. And with Aaron Rodgers, to me, and I've never been in a locker room with Aaron Rodgers. I don't know the man. And maybe he's a great teammate. Maybe everybody loves him. But the vibe that I got from him is he wants his boys, like we were talking about earlier in the afternoon, is that he's the kid that inherited the shop from his dad or his granddad, who got a government loan after the war and built it up from a garage, making half a dozen fenders for an M113 in the 70s during Vietnam, and parlay that into huge government contracts, this giant warehouse, this giant assembly factory. And now he got the keys because his old man retired, and the rest of management was just desperate because the business wasn't going anywhere. 20 years of mediocrity, 20 years of just barely making it. And they want to get back on top. They want to compete with Raytheon. They want to compete with Lockheed Martin. They want they want to get back into get these huge government contracts again. And Aaron Rodgers comes in. He's got all the pedigree. He's got all the prestige. He's been there. He's done that. He was CEO of some other company because he wanted to go out and forge his own path. And now he's the prodigal son riding into to save the day. And he's hired. It's just nepotism. He's hired all of his friends. He's fired all the old heads that were making decisions for 20 years. Like, in a way that makes sense because obviously the franchise hasn't been great. But instead of bringing in good guys, bringing in people that know what they're doing, he's just loading up with his buddies, and we're not seeing a return on investment. He brings in Alan Lazar, he brings in Robert Saleh, he gets Nathaniel Hackett, he gets Randall Cobb, he gets Devontae.
Couldn't even play.
He gets Devontae.
Cobb couldn't even suit up. They gave him a contract. He couldn't even suit up at all, really. Cobb right away. That's all Packer guys. Yeah, it's like just giving them everything, carte blanche. And then he gets injured 4 plays into it. Now he's 2-5, like 2 wins in 2 years.
Yeah, and 2 wins in seven games, 7 starts, 7 full games, I should say. 2 wins in 8 games, 7 full games. When he was supposed to be,
a lot of drama so far.
Yeah, and a lot of ayahuasca and smoking a lot of dope, getting real high for nothing. So that's why I have New York. I have the Jets in my bottom 4. So in the AFC.
Oh wow, all the way down there.
Yeah, I think they finish. I have New England, Jackson, and this is no particular order. New England, Jacksonville, New York, and Cleveland in the NFC. I think those 4 teams are fighting. Are it's a race to the bottom for those 4. If New York doesn't win this week, and you slip to 2, and if they lose to New England, a crappy Patriots team, a team that everybody knew was going to be crappy. I don't know.
Yep. They're rebuilding clearly.
You got to go for that. You got to go for the number 1 overall because you need help everywhere. You need defensive line. You need a linebacker. You need offensive line, and I'll harp on it until I die. From now on until I die, I don't. You can have all the weapons in the world, but if you can't keep the guy upright, it's really hard to throw touchdowns from your back.
Yep. Look who Harbaugh picked. What, like 5th overall, 6th overall? First year as the head coach of the Chargers. Joe Alt, offensive tackle, Notre Dame. The guy's like 6'9", absolute brick wall. First pick as the coach and GM. Harbaugh picked a lineman.
Well, the Lions took Penny Swell a couple of years ago, and he's been an absolute stud on that right side.
Oh my
absolute
God.
stud.
Right. Penny's incredible. Yep. When in doubt, it's so important. It's not sexy, but it's so crucial. You got to add on the line.
It isn't sexy, but it's safe. The safest pick in the top 10 is an offensive lineman.
It's so important.
Offensive linemen, people don't. The after quarterback, a great center, a great left tackle, and a kicking game that can be utilized as a weapon. I harp on it. I harp on it every week because so many teams just don't care about kicking. And it's
criminal. Yeah. It's because it's such an important element. Those final moments that it affects your play calling in the first quarter or the second quarter. If you're down there and you're not sure and your kicker, not sure about it. Like think about having a Tucker in Baltimore for all those years. They can confidently kick 55 plus. I mean, in any level. Mm-hmm. But like you at least got to have a competent kicker, and a lot of teams neglect that position.
Yeah, because you can feel it. Because everybody thinks you can go get a kicker in the draft. Oh, we can just go get a kicker. And kicking is such a crucial element of the game in modern football that a competent kicker is so crucial. And it's not just kicker. It's not just field goal kickers. It's punters as well. If you have a guy that can put the ball inside the 20 from your own 20, that's an absolute weapon. And so many teams just don't value the kicking position the way that I think they should.
Absolutely. I think my bottom four, I mean, I really think like a team like the Cardinals, it's too early for me to write teams off, but the Panthers have to be at the bottom of the barrel for NFC. And then AFC, it looks like Jacksonville. Maybe Trevor Lawrence might not be the answer. Doug Peterson's on the way out. Right now, I mean, they might have a top 3 pick too.
Yeah, I have, and then Cleveland. The Cleveland, they're so fucked.
Yeah, they're spiraling.
Because even if Winston comes in and can be decent, they're still screwed on the back end because they have to play Deshaun. Deshaun has to play. Obviously he's out for the rest of the year. He's not playing this year, but next year they can't get rid of him. They can't just cut him. Because he's guaranteed $72.9 million, and they can't cut him in. They can't cut him in 2026 because he's guaranteed $72.9 in 2026. And even if Winston comes in and plays well, and they go on a mini run, and they finish up like 8-9. And they want to start Winston next year. They really can't. Because I look around the league, on every team with a bad quarterback, their bad quarterback is still better than Deshaun Watson. New York has a young quarterback. Or not New York, sorry. New England has a young quarterback. Jacksonville has a young quarterback. New York has Aaron Rodgers. They're not going to give up Aaron Rodgers for Deshaun Watson. No. Unless Aaron retires at the end of the year. But I think management in New York would rather take a flyer on someone in the draft than Deshaun Watson. At least I would.
Yeah. No one wants Watson.
And then Carolina.
No way.
And Carolina, they're going to take someone in the draft. New Orleans, they'll probably go with Derek Carr again next year. New York is married to New York already has an albatross contract of their own in Daniel Jones. And then, if you look at Tampa Bay's not getting rid of Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield is light years ahead of Watson. Obviously Detroit is good with golf. Their golf has been amazing. Minnesota's not moving. Minnesota is either going with Darnold again next year or JJ McCarthy. Seattle's got Geno Smith. They're not moving off of him. He's only going to be 31 this year. Washington has a young guy. Philly's got Hurts. KC has Mahomes. They're not moving off of Mahomes. Baltimore has Lamar. Buffalo has Allen. Houston has CJ Stroud. So you look at every team in the league, and it's like that. The big sticking point is that huge contract.
Absolutely, it's an albatross. Yeah, so that rounds
because
out
no matter
my bottom four in the AFC, the Browns.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Top two. Who's your Super Bowl prediction right now?
I still have Detroit and Kansas City.
Heading into week 8.
I still have Detroit and Kansas City like I did at the beginning of the year. That's the game that I want. That's the game that I think will be great. I'm
Could have had him last year. Close last
we
year.
we should have had him
In
last
pole
year.
position as of this year.
Yeah. Now you got Buffalo. I think really there's no bad Super Bowl of the top four that we have right now. Any of the four teams could beat any of the other four teams. I really don't think there's a clear leader in the clubhouse at week 8. I think everybody is super close. And that's what I was saying. It's like that's what I was saying a couple of weeks ago on over on Brad's show, was that when you look at the football now as opposed to 30 or 40 years ago, every team is that much closer. Yes, not every game is 31-29 on a last-second field goal, but they're super competitive. Even the bad games, everybody was complaining that the other Monday night. It was Cincinnati, and New York. And I had a lot of fun with that game. It was 17-7, but it was a really competitive 17-7. Everybody was like, this game sucks. And I'm like, man, I thought that was a really fun game. I had a great time watching that. Both teams played great defense. And it wasn't like there's a difference between great defense and bad offense. Like there's bad offense where you have 3 seconds in the pocket and you sail the ball over the guy's head. Where the defense, when the offensive line can't open a hole for a running back to save their lives. Yeah, that's bad offense. But when I saw that other Monday night when Cincinnati played New York, and I really thought it was a great game, and everybody was also just like, this is trash. And I'm like, okay, I had fun. I thought it was a lot of fun to watch. Was what I saw, and what I thought I saw, excuse me, was two great defenses playing great defense. And really preventing the offenses from getting going. It wasn't like you had really bad offenses that just couldn't get going. You had defenses making it miserable for the offense.
Yeah, that's what made it pretty unique.
So I had a lot of fun with that game. So we agree Carolina's probably the worst team in the NFC. You say New Orleans is right there with them? Because that's who I have next.
Yep. Yeah,
I really think
right now without a quarterback, Carr's out again, and too many injuries.
Spencer Rattler is not the answer. Yeah, without Derek Carr, that offense is floundering. And they need a lot of help. I just don't see anything from Carolina or from New Orleans that makes me go, that gives me pause. That defense got ate up by Tampa a couple of weeks ago now. And then last Sunday, I forget who they played, but they just didn't look good. And Spencer Rattler, oh God, who did they play? They played on the Thursday night, didn't they?
They've been missing receivers. Kamara was out a little bit. Yeah, Rattler. There's so many injuries. Not there yet.
And at this point in the season, you know what you have, and if you don't have it, you just don't have it this year.
Yep.
I think we're getting down to the most important weeks of the middle of the early season. As you say, it's starting to get early. It's starting to get late early for a lot of teams.
Yeah, it is. It's make or break time. The next 2 to 3 weeks, well, they're either going upwards or downwards. It'll.
But by Thanksgiving, we'll pretty much know where we're at and what we have.
Yeah.
And usually that's my barometer for the midpoint of the season. I know we're in week 8 this week, but I really think that the Thanksgiving break or the Thanksgiving weekend is that weekend that we really establish who's coming, who's going, the haves and the have-nots, and we know because we're 12 or 13 weeks into the season at that point. It's no longer early at that point. It's starting to get late. If you're 3-8 in week 12, going into week 12, you really have to run the table. You have to go on a 6-game winning streak. And now everybody's banged up. Everybody's got a couple injuries. Trade deadline's come and gone. No more deals to be done. You have what you have. Yeah, you might get a guy back from IR or something like that. McCaffrey might come off the IR for San Francisco in week 12. And they might be able to be 4-5 in week 12 and make a late season run and get to 10-7 and back into the playoffs as that 7th.
Yeah. I think the injuries. I don't think it's San Fran's year, but they could make a run. They could.
I think there's a couple of teams that are injury but right now. They could make a run later in the season, like San Francisco, like Tampa Bay. Oh, especially if Godwin and Evans can come back. If they can weather these next 3, 4, 5 weeks and get their 2 big guys back, they might be able to salvage a run and compete with Atlanta for the division title.
Yeah.
I think Detroit, Minnesota, Green Bay are the 3 best positioned teams right now as it sits in the AFC and the NFC. Sorry, excuse me. I think they're the 3 best teams in the NFC right now. I think overall, the Philly and Seattle, Washington, and then Green Bay.
Not even sold on Seattle. Yeah, I mean, Eagles are right there. They got to continue to play well. They got to build on the Giants win. Remember, after all the controversy with Sirianni, they barely beat the Browns with Deshaun Watson, no Nick Chubb. They won by 4 points at home last week. So it's good for this past Sunday to win big in New York, to show some signs of life. They were really on cruise control for a couple of weeks. They turned it back on. Hopefully they sustain it. But
we'll this is where these weeks are the important. These are the weeks that really tell you what you have and what you don't. And if Philly can continue the momentum this week against Houston, who's Philly playing this week? I forget. We talked about that earlier, and now I don't remember.
They're playing they're in Cincinnati.
Oh, that's right, Cincinnati. Yeah, that's a great test. That's a great matchup. Cincinnati's kind of found their identity. They're on the up and up, and then and Philly wants to be that other team in the to be that third team in the conversation. Yeah, they can go and I picked them to win if they can go into Cincinnati and knock off the Bengals, I really like Philadelphia moving forward. And the other team that I really like that's kind of lurking is that Houston Texans team.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
They're the team that I think is the most you don't want to face them in a playoff game right now, because they'll get that.
Yeah,
or I have them
dangerous.
because I have them penciled in at the 4, and so they'll get a home playoff game. I think they're the most. I think they're the most competitive. Outside of Kansas City, Baltimore, Buffalo, Detroit, and Minnesota, I think Houston is incredibly dangerous, and I think they're the team that a lot of people are going to be saying, because I think they'll stay hot. I think everybody in the NFC, in the AFC, I think the top 4 are the 4. I really don't see much movement off of that, because I don't see Pittsburgh catching Baltimore. I don't see anybody catching Buffalo. I don't see Pittsburgh or Cincinnati catching Baltimore. I think Baltimore's got the East locked up. I think Buffalo's got the North locked up. I think KC. I think the top 4 are the top 4 from here on to the end. I just don't see anybody being able to dethrone any of those teams. And moving
pretty much set in stone.
Pretty much, barring any major injuries or just an end of the season collapse, because so many times you get to that, you get 9-3 and you lose one, and next thing you know, you've lost 4 in a row, and all of a sudden you're 9-7.
Yeah.
And you need a win in the last game to close it out and get to 10-7 and make the playoffs. And so that's happened before. So obviously nothing's set in stone, but I really don't see much movement in the top 4. I think Minnesota, Detroit, Green Bay could all take Minnesota and Green Bay could take each other out and or take out Detroit, because I think all 3 of those teams are really good. Seattle in the West, San Francisco needs to get healthy. The Rams need to get healthy, and Arizona is just not there this year. I think Arizona could be that 7th seed. They could battle for that 7th seed, battle Chicago for that 7th seed, but I just don't see them taking Seattle out. I think the East comes down to Washington and Philly, because I haven't seen enough from Dallas, and obviously the Giants are a shit show. And one of those, I think the East sends one. I think it's Detroit out of the North, Seattle out of the West, Washington and Philly out of Washington or Philly out of the East, and Atlanta out of the South.
Ooh, only one. East will be trying to push the show. Yeah, and Dallas isn't getting in. I don't think they have a weird year so far. They're not getting any better.
I don't see them.
Games. They won't have enough. They won't have enough wins. You probably need 11 or 10. We were talking before about it. At least 10. 10 minimum. Probably 11 this year. 11.
Probably, yeah.
It's a deeper NFC pool now. But like those top teams is a little bigger now.
And I think that the top 5 are.
But deep.
I think that the problem is the top 4 or 5 really separated themselves, and then there's a car crash from 5 to 7. There's about 8 or 12 teams.
Yeah.
They could all get 5 through 7. And in Detroit, Minnesota, Green Bay, Chicago, I see 3 or 4 of those teams making the playoffs. So if you have 3 out of the North, if you have Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit, Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit, Minnesota, Green Bay, in the you have that's 2 that's the division winner and 2 wild cards right there. So that only leaves 1 wild card spot open for 7, 8, 9 teams. And if you think Philly and Washington are super close, which I do, they have San Francisco rebounds and gets back to form, and they get McCaffrey back, they get Ayuk back, and they can get out of their own way half the time. San Francisco could be right back in this thing. I think Seattle's a team to watch, and then you have in the East you have 3 teams that are all vying for that 7th seed. You have Philadelphia, because obviously Philadelphia, Washington, Dallas, one of them's going to win the division, and then you have the other 2 fighting for that 7th seed. So you have Seattle, San Francisco, Arizona, Philadelphia, Washington, Dallas, and Chicago, all vying for that 7th seed out of the NFC, and they're all super competitive. There's when I look at this season, obviously there's the 4 bad teams in each conference. That's 8, right? So then that leaves 24 other at least competitive teams. Whereas you look before, in years past, even a decade ago, you might have 8 teams that were clearly playoff teams, and then everybody else was either mediocre or really bad. And now we've come forward a decade, even 2010 to now is a stark difference where we have 8 really awful teams, mismanagement, injuries, just bad play. You New England, Jacksonville, New York, Cleveland, Carolina, New Orleans, New York, the other New York team. Those are the garbage. Those teams are pretty hot garbage. But everybody else is a player or 2 away from being 5-2, 5-1, 6-0. Tampa Bay is close. They were being hammered by Baltimore on Monday night. I turned it off, went and done other things Monday night. I get up Tuesday morning, and the final ended up being 41-31. I was like, wow, Tampa made a comeback. That's crazy.
Yeah, they stormed right back.
And so to me, I think that helps with the fact that you look at the top 15 teams in the league right now. Great quarterback. Well, I'll say Minnesota, great quarterback play. Seattle's got great quarterback play from Geno Smith. Philadelphia, Washington both have great quarterback play from Hurts and Daniels. Then you look down, you say great quarterback play from Baker Mayfield. Great quarterback play from Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray's played some really great quarterback. He's done some really great things as quarterback of Arizona. He's got a great wide receiver in Marvin Harrison Jr. And then you look at, and say, okay, obviously Gardner Minshew's been pretty trash. Drake May is new. Carolina doesn't have a quarterback. New Orleans doesn't have a quarterback. Daniel Jones has been trash. Aaron Rodgers has been trash. Cleveland is just trash. I mean, it's a city that set the river on fire twice, so. You got good quarterback play from Justin Fields and Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh.
I don't know.
Great quarterback play from
decent, pretty good. pretty good. I mean, Fields and Wilson's decent. I wouldn't go out of my way to compliment it. It is what it is. They're winning defensively.
From where they were to where they are, from where we expected them to be at the start of the year to now, I would say they've played great for what we thought we were going to have to what we actually have. I would say they played great. Then you look at Bo Nix has played great in Denver. He's looked like he's come along. Kirk Cousins has played great ball in Atlanta. I would say Kirk Cousins has been Jekyll Hyde. 1 week he's Jekyll, the next week he's Hyde, and that's how Atlanta fans feel. 1 week they love him, the next week they want to hide from him. Dak Prescott has another Jekyll Hyde type deal. You know, Dak Prescott falls into that who for me. Dak Prescott falls into that who's better category. I think there's a lot of quarterbacks that fall into that who's better category. Okay, we don't like our quarterback, but who's better? That's available. That's going to be a decent price that we can go get. That's going to be better than the guy that we have. And that's the thing that I hate about is like we only have the quarterback we have. And, you know, you have to dance with the one that brung you. And, you know, anybody that has a quarterback isn't moving off that quarterback for Dak Prescott. And anybody that needs a quarterback that, you know, like New Orleans, they could use a quarterback, but they don't have the assets to make it a wise decision to trade for a Dak Prescott because the positions that they would trade, the assets they would have to give up to get Dak Prescott are too much where it wouldn't make sense financially for the long-term health of the franchise to bring in Dak Prescott. Because to get a Dak Prescott, the pieces that they would have to give up would take them right back out of contention.
Yeah, Dak Prescott contract. We were talking about it earlier. It's not a friendly contract. No, thank you. They gave a ton of money out. The rest of the roster is suffering because of it.
And anyone that would be and anyone that would be in a position to make a deal.
Jerry Jones forever. Jerry Jones forever, please.
And anyone that would be in a position to want to make a deal for Dak Prescott wouldn't make any sense for them to bring in Dak Prescott because what they would have to give up would take them right out of contention. There's very few teams that could bring in that have enough assets that can make a move that are close enough with their current assets that would be able to make a move for a Dak Prescott and still maintain their ability to be in contention. And all of the contenders have a quarterback. Maybe Pittsburgh might be in play, but with that contract, I don't know if you really want to go and get Dak Prescott when you already have.
That could be a good fit.
I know, but I know, but could what Dallas would want in return for Dak be too much for Pittsburgh, where they go from being competitive to being uncompetitive because of how much they had to give up to bring in Dak?
Yeah, then I don't think Jerry Jones will do it. I think he's married to Dak for the duration. So I don't see Dak moving.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think that trying to think of other mid-level teams that need a quarterback that are like a quarterback away. So many of them there's so many young quarterbacks in the league right now that it really doesn't make any sense for these mid-level teams that are trying to move up. Like Chicago has Caleb Williams. He's a rookie. They're not gonna make a move for Dak. Washington has no. I just don't see anybody that would be willing to bring in Dak for, especially with his contract and the assets that Dallas would want in return.
I don't think Dallas is looking to move Dak, so I think it's kind of a moot point. But yeah, I don't see Dak moving anywhere. But.
No, I was just talking to Cowboys fans because so many, and it's not just Cowboys fans. It's just a lot of. Did you finally die? No. Will you die already and leave me alone? I'm yelling at my lamp. It's trying to kill itself over here. I've had it for like 5 or 6 years, and I bought it for like $20 at Walmart. It's been on its last leg for about 1.5 years now. I just haven't had to.
Down in a blaze of glory.
Yeah, I haven't. Every time I've thought about needing to replace it, it's when I'm using it, and when I go shopping, it's usually the middle of the day, and so I don't need the light on, so I don't think about it when I'm shopping to get a new one.
So it happens. Yep.
Yeah. So no, I was just talking to, Cowboys fans, just NFL fans in general, because I see so many NFL fans talk about that. Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? And it's like, there's a reason why your GM is your GM. If GMing was a job that anyone could do, everyone would do it. And so many guys, they think like, well, if you just offer them a big pile of money, like we were talking about earlier, like, it's not always just about money. There's other things that guys value.
I can listen.
They
I gotta grab my crutch. I can.
There's things that guys value that aren't money. There's relationships that they built. There's things that they might want to do after football, like maybe they want to get into TV, or they want to get into acting, or they're thinking about their long-term post-football future and wanting to make sure that they have good financial, that they're set up good financially. Maybe they want to be close to certain doctors for their post-playing career so they can go get patched up after they're done. And maybe there's businesses that they want to get into when they're done playing, that they think so yes, you might want to offer a player a big pile of money, but in modern sports, there's so much more than just a big pile of money that goes into it. There's endorsements. They might have a contract with Nike or with Reebok or with Budweiser. And playing in Atlanta might facilitate getting up to St. Louis. It might be easier to get to St. Louis from New Orleans because they have that contract with Budweiser. And Budweiser needs them to come in and make some appearances, do commercials, whatever. And so it makes more sense to go to New Orleans than it does to go to Atlanta. You know, there's family things that, like, maybe the wife or the girlfriend is from a certain place and she doesn't want to be too far from her family. Like we talked about earlier, with elderly parents, they might want to stay. They may not want to go to Dallas.
Yeah.
If their family's all back on the East Coast.
There's a lot of factors.
And so just offering them a huge boatload of cash may not be the necessary ticket to bring in some hot shot free agent. They may not like your GM. They may not like the coach. They may not be a good scheme fit. How many times have we seen that where a guy goes from one place where he's killing it, and he makes highlight reel play after highlight reel play after highlight reel play. He's a Pro Bowler and an all pro. What's that?
Oh yeah, no, the scheme is huge, but the play system and there's so many different factors that go into how well a player performs, more than just how talented the guy is. The scheme fit is so important,
and
it's huge.
Maybe there are certain guarantees the guy wants. Maybe there's playing time concerns that a guy might have, like Max Crosby. He might want, he might be all for a Detroit trade this year, right? But he may not want to re-sign in Detroit next year because he's, worried about playing time. Like we were talking about earlier, where they may not want to use him as much as he thinks he should be used. Where they want to play both guys, they want to divvy up the snaps between both guys so that they stay fresh longer. He may think he may want to play
that. Yeah, man.
and so he may end up taking the Raiders may deal him to Detroit, but then he may end up signing in Washington or Seattle, or maybe a guy gets dealt to a Detroit or Buffalo for 6 months as a rental player, and he spends a winter in Detroit or Buffalo, and it's just too damn cold. He spent the last 10 years out in Las Vegas or San Francisco or Seattle, and you don't have to shovel rain. It don't snow in the desert, and maybe he just doesn't want to deal with the harsh winters in Detroit or Buffalo or New England. So there's so many things that
some players don't want to deal with it.
And it's not like Madden where you can just turn it off and turn it back on when you start losing.
Yeah, there's no resets once you get a big trade.
No, there's no take backs.
Yep, can't cancel the trade a couple days after.
Like, oops, I made a mistake. I want to go back to Oakland or Las Vegas. Like Devontae Adams. He goes from the 5-2, 2-5 Oakland Raiders losing to Pittsburgh to the 2-5 Jets who lost to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's falling.
That's fine. I would like to go back to Las Vegas. No take backs. It's your problem now.
Exactly.
You know,
You think the Jets can make the playoffs or not? You still think it probably not?
As of week 8, I'm saying no. I say they missed the playoffs. I think they go 7-10. I think they go 5-5 the rest of the way out. Go 7-10 and miss the playoff. And then they have to decide who's going to love Aaron Rodgers enough to be their head coach. Who's going to kiss Aaron Rodgers' ass enough that they can make him the head coach. Do you see if Mike McCarthy gets fired in Dallas, do the Jets go and hire Mike McCarthy and pair him back up with Aaron Rodgers next year?
Yeah, they probably would. They would strongly consider it at the very least. He would be a coaching option for them, for sure. I mean, the interim guy, this guy's 0-2. It's not long term. I'm surprised they didn't name anyone really, the Jets. But yeah, McCarthy would be a sensible fit because of Rodgers' connection.
And that's all assuming that Rodgers stays, because I'm not sold that Rodgers isn't. Especially if they keep getting their brains beat in, like a redheaded stepchild. Yeah, if after this year, if the Jets are 7-10, and with nothing good on the horizon, with not really looking like they're going to be contenders next year, I don't know if Rodgers wants to come back and try and get it done, or if he hangs it up and goes over to the TV side, or if he becomes like another host on the McAfee show, or he starts his own stupid podcast. Because if he starts his own podcast, that'll do numbers. He'll be fine. He won't hurt for money. He'll have his audience of nut jobs.
Yeah, I think he's good for at least next year because he just got Devontae Adams. It's his first year back healthy. He wants one more clean one final run. I don't think he's going to go out like this. If it remains healthy, I think he'll come back one more full season.
I wouldn't. No, I would agree with you. I'm just thinking about, because I don't think he's got like right. Rodgers is the type. Rodgers is the type to look at his pillow pet and be like, "Yeah, I'm done."
GPS, like, yeah, actually, I'm retiring. Yeah, I'll just do it overnight.
Yeah. Especially if they lose the next 3 in a row, you know, if they're 2-8, and he's just, it's just,
grid.
Yeah, you have to wake him up from his sensory deprivation tank and
rile him up a bit.
See if he wants to come back and continue playing for another year. Yes, I just don't see. I see Aaron Rodgers as more of a liability than an asset at this point for New York, because and the big problem I see is they didn't go out and draft a quarterback to replace him. So they have no one waiting in the wings if Rodgers decided to just call it a day and go play hide the pickle with Pat McAfee.
Jordan Travis.
Oh, did they? I forgot that they were the ones that drafted him.
The Florida State QB.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, so we haven't. I'm not sure, but he might be back to full health soon. That would be one of the backups.
He could be viable. He could be viable, especially if he's week before. If he can get back to where he was before the injury, he could definitely be a viable starter in the NFL.
They had quite a run going FSU before they got derailed by injuries.
Yeah.
That was brutal at the end. That was like their year. First in many a try. It's been a while for the Tomahawk Chop folks.
Speaking of dismal years, FSU They're 1-6.
Yeah, they're not looking good at all.
No, they're not. Do you think they give Dion a call?
Just broke the camel's back last year. The way the end of the season unraveled. Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
Time. Bring him home. FSU Nation. That'd be an awesome move.
Does Dion take the call, or is he new phone who dis?
I think you definitely listen
because he's got a nice little thing going there in Colorado.
Oh yeah, wherever he goes, he's gonna be set. I think he'd at least he'd consider the idea. I'm sure he already is or already has. If that, I mean, if that's open to him, then that's a good resting spot for him. Good landing spot.
Yeah, I just wonder if he wants to go, because he's finally got Colorado on the up and up again, and to go from a 10-2 Colorado team that probably makes the playoffs to a 2-10, 3-9 Seminoles team, Florida State, that didn't have a sniff of anything. And you're going right back into the basement and having to rebuild from square one. Is that a headache he wants to deal with? I just don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch how that unfolds. It's only year 2 for him.
Definitely. And it is only year 2 in Colorado. And I don't know what his buyout would be. I would assume that Florida State would have to. Well, they're going to have to pay Mike Norvell his exit fee when they fire him. As I don't think it's a matter of if, I think it's a matter of when they fire him. And then when they fire him, they're going to have to pay his exit fee. And they're probably going to, and then I would assume, I don't know, but I would assume they would have to pay Colorado a truckload of cash. So you're saying let's say 40, 50, let's say $75 million to get rid of Mike Norvell. And then another $40 million to buy out Dion. And then another $100 million to bring in Dion. So you're looking at, and 4 and 7 is 1. Yeah, $215 million to get Dion from Colorado. And that's just guessing. That's not any. I have no inside knowledge of the contracts for anybody, but just guessing on some of the numbers that I've heard from other coaches that have been bought out of a contract and brought into a new, letting one coach go, firing one coach, and paying his exit fee. Those usually run in the $40 to $70 million ballpark. So I went on the high end. I figured Dion's contract would probably be. I think Dion's is getting right around $40 million a year. So that could be $40 million times 5. So that could be $200 million to buy out Dion over the course of the next 5 years, and then another $100 million. And then you could be looking at $60 million a year over the next 5 years for Dion, or more. Just saying, let's just say 60 over the next 5 years for Dion, and that's another $140 million. So you're pushing $500 million, and I just don't know if that's. I just don't know if that's doable. You're looking at $100 million a year. You're looking at $115 million of dead money a year for at least the next 2 or 3 years to pay off Norvell and pay off Dion's contract with Colorado on top of the $60 million. So you're looking at $175 million a year for just one guy, to only be using one guy, to only have one guy. So I don't know, theoretically,
amazing number.
It's
for recruiting. That boosters. It's doable.
If they could get Dion, I think the boosters could. I think you could sweet talk the boosters into paying that kind of money. But I think the problem is that they're going to expect championships within the first year. They're going to expect deep playoff runs. Well, if you're shelling out $175 million,
year two,
at the latest year two, deep playoff runs with national championships up for grabs.
I don't know. Maybe right away expected to playoff contender.
I think playoff contender year one, national championship contender year two, national champion by year three at the latest. Really, if you're shelling out that kind of money to bring in a favored son, and maybe the university can hold off the boosters for a couple of years because he is a favored son. Maybe they'll give him 3 years to get into the playoffs, but by year 5, 6, 7, if they do bring in Dion and they're still a 6 and 7 team every year, getting beat in a meaningless bowl game where half the team doesn't show up and the other half doesn't play, it's gonna the welcome is going to wear out thin and quick in Tallahassee for all prime time. If
for sure. What do you think about the Alabama coach already with 2 losses?
I half expected it. I didn't expect it to be so soon. I didn't expect him to lose to Vanderbilt. I think that's the one that really is the shocker. Is the Vanderbilt loss. I figured if they were going to lose, they might lose to Texas. I think they play Texas. They might not have played. I think they play Texas a little bit later on. But Georgia was going to be a tough one. 2 losses. I really expected most of the SEC to have 2 losses this year for the first time in a long time because everybody was getting better. Everybody was playing each other more often because between the portal and the NIL deals and Nick Saban leaving and Jim Harbaugh leaving and some of the other guys getting shuffled around. I expected more tough games, more craziness in the college football season, a lot more tough games because with the 4 teams coming, the Big Ten, 3 of them really good, 1 of them really bad. I expected more tough games. I expected more talent to be spread out throughout the league, especially now that you have legal buying. You can legally buy players now, and it's not just Georgia, SC, and Bama under the table making deals for cars and homes and all the other happy horse shit that has been going on for 25 years. Let a guy steal 1 sign and it's the end of the world, but give a player a house and it's that's just doing business in college football. When Nick Saban was running the dirtiest program in the country, that's just how football was done. Yeah. And everybody else looked the other way when Nick Saban, because Nick Saban is Nick Saban and Alabama's the darlings of the college football world. But let a guy steal 1 sign and the world is coming apart and it's the end of the world and everybody's like, yeah, everybody steals signs. It's what we do. and they were just better at it. They had a guy who loved it more than you did. Your sign stealer wasn't as good as our sign stealer. Sucks to suck. And when Nick Saban and Kirby Smart and when it's all these SEC coaches and these Southern schools being dirty as hell, well, the NCAA knows which side of their toast it's buttered on. So they turn a blind eye. But when it's a team up north coming down to rain on the parade of the SEC, that's unacceptable. So those are my thoughts on that. But to answer your question, no, I'm not surprised Alabama has two losses. I'm just surprised one of their losses is to Vanderbilt. I wish I would have put money on Vanderbilt. I'd taken all my money I had and put it all on Vanderbilt. Shit. We'd be kings. We'd be cocks of the walk if we had to put.
But what a win that was!
We'd have been
that program.
We'd have been kings. We'd have been cocks of the walk. We had gone put a couple $100 on Vandy last couple weeks ago. If only, right?
True. That would have been a gem of a pick right there. If only.
Where's the time machine when you need one?
Yeah.
I don't need to go back in time very far to change the past. I just need to put a bet on Vandy to win. And take all the money I have.
Yep, Vandy for the win.
Cash out my 401k. I'm put $15,000 on Vandy to win. What is that? 1,000 to 1 odds or something like that.
That's it.
$15 million later, I'll see you bitches in Barbados. Living it up on a beach. Shit. Was there anything else you wanted to custom discuss this evening? This was your brainchild. I'll defer to you.
No, just looking over the agenda, it looks like we got the good NFL picks. We got the good NFL picks coming up. Who's your World Series? You said you had Yankees. I still got
Yankees in 7.
I can't wait for it to start off.
Yeah. I think it's
7-game thriller either way. I can see it going. Go either way.
I agree. I think both teams are loaded. Both teams are stacked. Soto and Judge. I really think I think it comes down to who can which side out pitches the other. I think this is one of like we were talking about earlier. When it comes to pitching
and defense.
When it comes to hitting, both teams can go cold, and I think with both teams having had long series, having the same amount of rest, you don't have a big. Both teams went 6 or 7 in their series, so it's not like one team has had 8 or 9 days off and is just going to come out flatter than a pancake, flatter than Kansas. I think you'll have a very offensively heavy. I see a lot of 5-4. Yeah, I see a lot of good hitting. A lot of close, high-scoring games. 5-4, 6-3, 5-7-5. I think it really comes down to which bullpen can do a better job of shutting down the middle order, 3, 4, 5, 6 for the other team. Yeah. Which team can keep? Which team's bullpen can keep? keep the other team's core in check. And because you have Otani and Freeman, is Mookie Betts still in LA?
Yeah.
You have Freeman, Otani, Betts.
Mookie, yeah.
You have Soto.
Otani, Mookie,
Yes.
Freeman.
That's a yep. And then on the New York side, you have Judge and Soto. And I really think it'll come down to who can get production out of the bottom three. Timely hitting with runners in scoring position. You expect Soto and Judge and Otani and Freeman and Betts to all get their hits. But which bottom of the lineup comes through in key moments when they have 2 on, 2 out, bottom of the sixth in a tie game or a 1-run game, who can score, who can get a hit, who can get already in the 7, 8, 9 hole. Which team is going to get production out of the bottom of their lineup? Because we expect the top of the lineup and the heart of the lineup to be productive. But so many times these series come down to who can be productive at the bottom of the lineup. And which bullpen can be shut down, locked down.
Yeah, which lineup depth plays better.
And which bullpen's depth is
sure.
I
don't know. I could even see 9 or 10 runs scored a couple games. Serious fireworks. I see a lot of offense.
Or no runs, or really because you have these monster lineups that you expect to go out and get hits, but it's the World Series. Everybody chokes up a little bit. Everybody's trying a little bit harder. You're laying it all out there.
Yeah, very good point.
Every game, every at bat is magnified. Every pitch is magnified. Every take, every swing, every called strike, every ball. And you also have to wonder, the other thing is how is the game going to be called? And how even is the game going to be called? Are we going to get a lot of crappy strikes? Balls 3, 4, 5, 6 inches off the plate called a strike. Balls 2 inches on the plate called a ball. Pitches 2 inches on the plate called a ball. What kind of battling are we going to have to do with the umpiring crew? And that's another factor
that's right.
That plays into this whole situation. Because when it comes to the World Series, you really don't want it to come down to a called third strike 3 inches off the plate. But how many times we've complained about officiating for decades? And you look at that Texas-Georgia game, one of the worst calls I've ever seen in a organized sporting game. And it took the fans absolutely losing their mind and throwing trash out on the field to get the call overturned. And
that was incredibly bad behavior, but it worked.
And until the officials call the game square, I'm not blaming anyone. Absolutely litter the field. Delay the game. Take the fine. Because the officiating is horrible. It's awful. And until they start holding officials to account for their bad officiating, it's never going to change. You can decry the fans. That's fine. That's fine. We'll take the fine. We'll pay the fine. We'll go around. We'll take up an offering. We'll open up a GoFundMe. Hey, here, give me. Everybody donates $5, and we pay the fine. Because what's the point? At what point are we going to stop saying that it's just part of the game? Because that call was egregious. It wasn't even. It wasn't close. It wasn't a bang call.
Terrible call.
Where you could be like, well, it could have gone either way. It could have gone either way. Or, you get some, you don't get some. It wasn't a phantom holding. It wasn't looking back, okay, they made the right call. No, it was bad. It was bad from the jump. And I know a lot of people were like just upset that they threw trash on the field, but it's like when the referees are trash, and we boo the refs, we complain about it on social media, we get here on our shows, and we make comments, and we beg the leagues, and this is across sports, whether it be hockey or baseball or NASCAR or auto racing, we beg the leagues to make their officials accountable. And the league just goes, oh well, tough. That's how it is. And they find the universities, they find the organizations, players and coaches, because it's what's the slogan? Conduct detrimental to the sport. And it's like, well, if your officials weren't half-assing these things, we wouldn't have any reason to complain.
Exactly. That's the whole issue. That's what's sparking all this activity in that regard is because of the poor officiating. So it's and
it's one.
They got to figure this thing out.
It's one thing if fans feel slighted. Yeah, obviously, if a call doesn't go your way, you feel slighted, and that's fine. But sometimes, the refs do make a call, and the other team, your team, made a bad play, made a penalty, committed a penalty. But I think the vast majority of fans may not like a call or may not like a penalty. Like, oh, that shouldn't have been a penalty because, that's not something we want. It's not a good penalty. Like, it's a bad penalty, right? Or like they made a call and you don't agree with the call. But you can live with a call that can be justified, right? Oh, I saw it this way, or refs miss a call. It's one thing to miss a call, to miss a holding, or to miss a face mask, in the heat of battle, or to miss a close pitch, to call a close strike a ball, or to call a close ball a strike. Something that's not 6 inches off the plate where the catcher had to move his glove to go get it, right? Most fans can live with a good, a good job by a catcher to frame a pitch where, as long as it's called fair on both sides. Like if we're getting that outside, if you're calling it super tight and you're not giving that corner strike, that outside strike or the inside strike, call it both ways. Don't give if my team is up, don't call that corner strike. Don't call that corner pitch a strike when you're not giving my team that strike. Well, most fans are most reasonable fans, and I would say most fans are fairly reasonable. They just want it called down the middle. If you're going to call it on us, call it on them, or don't call it. And when you see a play like in the Georgia Texas game, where it was very clearly offensive pass interference and they call it defensive pass interference, how do you not lose your mind as a fan of your team? It just even objective fans for Georgia, if you can be an objective fan as a Georgia fan, I don't expect people to be objective. I'm certainly not objective. I don't claim to be objective, but as a objective fan from Georgia, if you can look at that and say that was an egregious miss, as long as we get the calls, as long as both teams get equal treatment under the law, which the officials, that's their job, is to apply the law, right? We have a set of rules in these games, and we expect it to be officiated fairly on both sides by the officials, right? That's why we have officials. Is because if you don't have officials, then it's just mob rule, and whichever the bigger team is can just go out and bully the smaller team. And so we have officials to officiate, and we expect officials to call it down the middle. And when they can't or won't call it down the middle, then we have to do something as fans to protest. And getting up and walking out really isn't an option, because that's not fair to your team. If you get up and you're like, well, I'm leaving because this officiating crew is terrible, that just hurts your team. That's not fair to your boys.
Yeah.
So how do we correct this problem without making a whole lot of people upset by throwing trash on the field, by giving the officials the middle finger, by just being irate? Because we can't fight officials, right? We can't go down there and start throwing hands with the officials, because that's a one-way ticket to jail, right? Good way to ruin your career. Good way to ruin your life.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't go fight officials. Can't bash them in the media. Can't call them out for their. So there's something has to be done, and until the leagues take responsibility for their officiating, we're going to see this trend continue. We're going to see hundreds of water bottles and beer cans and other assorted trash litter the field. Because what other recourse do we have as fans?
Yeah, they got to do a better job. I hate to see it, but yeah, it's not going to discontinue. It's probably going to it's going to only heighten from here, getting more egregious on both sides.
Especially if fans know that it'll work. And like the unfortunate precedent that this sets is that they had to go back and get the call because that was an unreviewable play. It wasn't like the team had a chance to protest that call. Like we have, that's why 30 years ago now, rolling up on 30 years, there was a play in the Bronx. It was Tampa and Atlanta, I think, 97. And there was a play, and it was called one way on the field, but it was obvious in replay that it should have gone the other way. So, or maybe it was 98. I don't remember the timeline offhand. But the Bucks made a play, and they got the call wrong, but they didn't have replay because before that, they had instituted replay, and replay was bogging the game down. So they took replay out. Yeah. And then they had that egregious call that just completely whiffed. And then they had to go, and then they went back in and put replay back in. And now people are complaining that there's too many replays, but you have, there's, everything happens so fast. It's bang, bang. There's so much stuff going on that, you have 9, 10, 11 guys on the field calling a game as a crew. And then you have things get missed, things don't get called. So there has to be a way to keep people honest, keep people accountable, and give them a hand when things get missed. And so if that play could have been reviewed, if Texas could have challenged it, if Texas could have made protested that, or the replay official could have looked at that play and said, "Hey guys, no, that was clearly not defensive pass interference. Pick stands, Texas ball at the goal line, play ball." And then I think you see a lot of that angst, a lot of that anger, a lot of that frustration is mitigated because fans know that the fans know that the officials have the opportunity to get those calls right.
Yeah, it's up to the officials ultimately to get it right. That's the problem. So.
And officials are human. They don't want to be told they did it wrong. They got the call wrong. And I understand that. I'm not
good officials out there too.
I'm not saying we should start going and fist fighting, every official, but I mean, there's a certain point where it's like there's got to be more than just throwing trash on the field. There's got to be a way to do it that doesn't involve just throwing trash on the field.
Yeah. We'll see. Hopefully, the refs get it right more, and there's less passion on it. I'd like to see it.
Yeah, or a way to hold officials accountable for their bad calls, because now it's just like. Because as of now, it's just basically you get a letter in the mail from the league on Monday, and it's like, yep, we got that one wrong. Sorry, guys. We'll try to be better next time.
Yeah, not exactly reassuring.
Right? And I'm not saying that officiating is this easy thing to do. I understand. I understand that mostly officials are, guys that have regular jobs that they have to do during the week, and they can't be dedicated to knowing the entire rule book, every rule, all the time, and making these calls. But there's got to be a way to have crews that are better. Something's got to be done, or you're going to keep seeing this stuff. Where fans litter the field with trash because they're so incensed.
Yeah. What else is going on? What else are you looking at in college ball?
I'm wondering, the thing that I'm looking at is how they're going to seed the playoff teams, and who's going to get those coveted buys in the first round, and how they're going to seed 9 through 12, and who they're going to seed 9 through 12 when they have so many teams that are really close, and what it's going to look like if you have a 9-3 Michigan team with wins over Ohio State and Oregon. If Michigan can right the ship, knock off Michigan State, get back to 5-3, get headed in the right direction, and knock off an Oregon, knock off an Ohio State, finish out strong, finish 9-3. With huge wins over top 5, top 10 teams, especially if Oregon doesn't drop a game between now and November 2nd, what do they do? If Michigan can beat the number 1 team in the country at home with a patchwork offensive line and a quarterback situation that's awful, if they go out and they can just go out and run over, if it's cold and nasty and wet in Ann Arbor on the first Saturday of November, how do and then they go into Columbus and knock off Ohio State in Columbus as a 10 or 15 point dog because Ryan Day just sucks against Michigan. Ryan Day sucks against anybody good. How do you justify what do you do with a 9-3 Michigan team with 2 top 5 wins? What do you do? What do you do with an Alabama team? You know, if Alabama can run the table and they're 11-2 with an SEC championship game win, what do you do with them? You know, that's the thing that I'm so glad I'm not in the selection committee. You know?
Yeah, no, it's going to be a lot more open highway though, with more teams in the playoffs at least this year though. But yeah, it's a tough committee. Tough decisions every year, even with 12 now. But not as
and the thing, you know, you would think with 12 it would be easier, but good God, you're gonna have 13, 14, 15 complaining that they didn't make it. Like just like 5, 6, 7 complaining that they weren't 4.
You always have
you
that.
know?
Yeah, but at least
What is
overall at least.
Yeah. And what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do with an Ole Miss team that's 10-2? What are you gonna do with so many because we were talking about the SEC here a little bit earlier, and you know, I kind of expected this season to be pretty wide open because we had a lot more.
Sure.
You're gonna have a lot more high level matchups. You know, Michigan was playing SC and.
Yeah.
SC.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
And Oregon and Ohio State, you know, you're going to play 3 top 25 games. You know, we'll have to wait and see. And then, you know, Texas drops the game. OU could be 9-3 too. There's a lot of things that could happen over the next 6 weeks that are, you know, really going to put the committee in a bind with everything that they have to deal with going forward.
So I'm trying to get my dog to go outside to walk.
I hear you. You're good. Excellent. What's for dinner? What you munching on?
I just had some turkey and cheese. Just
gotcha.
light post surgery.
I hear you. Yeah, I got you. I got you. Yeah, those first few days after I broke my foot, I didn't eat a lot either. I just so doped up on everything that I.
Worse.
Oh yeah, you think so?
Yeah, they did that to me too. Yeah, and it's blood thinners too. It's changing temperature. It's just got to monitor a couple of things now. They're so
yeah, I hear you.
You know, they really do it. They do things really professionally, and they monitor everything to a T. So it's, you know, like text messages on RX being ready, availability, like it's all really good. So it's all
that's sweet.
You've been there before.
That's
foot
sweet.
Injuries are no fun, but you get through it.
No, thankfully you broke your ankle and not your foot, not your heel. That should heal up pretty.
Oh yeah.
Was there any tendon damage or anything? Or was it just a clean break? You got out of lucky.
It's been moved around, but it's just a fracture.
Good. You made out like a bandit. Because that's the thing, is like I had, not only did I break the bone in my foot that I couldn't break, I had a tendon damage too. So it was just a matter of getting the bone to set, hopefully, and it was going to set as best as it could. As we discussed, you know, I brought up surgery because it was kind of like it wasn't that I wanted surgery. It's like, I was like, what's my options here? and they said surgery was no more likely to be.
Yeah.
It was only a 50-50 chance that it would be any better than doing nothing, than just not doing nothing, but not doing surgery. And the complications that come from doing surgery are more severe. The potential complications from a surgery aren't worth the potential benefit of surgery. So we opted to just cast it for 4.5 months. So,
wow.
Yeah, because when I talked to my doctor, he was like, "Yeah, no, surgery is only you'll probably with casting it, you'll get back to like 90%, whereas and with no complications and minimal soreness, you'll feel it in your foot when the pressure drops, like you'll know when a storm's coming in your foot, but compared to surgery where there's only a 50, like with no surgery casting it, you're at 90%, whereas surgery is 50% to get you, like it's only a 50-50 chance that you get back to 100%. And you have to spend, and it's going to cost you 10 times as much than just casting it and coming back and checking in every couple of months. So I went that route, and I just rehabbed at home. And I'm fairly comfortable. Like I was telling you the other day, it hurts in the morning, it hurts in the evening. But right now, sitting here, it really doesn't bother me. Like I can play when I play my drums. After I get done playing my drums, I have to remember to stretch it out. Because my Achilles is that's the tendon in the back of your foot, right? And so it'll bind up and it'll hurt.
Yeah.
But other than that, I have 90% mobility in my right foot, so I'm not going to be taking any combat jobs anytime soon. But other than that, I can live a pretty full and fulfilling life and do everything I need to do. That's one of the nice things about what I'm looking at doing going forward is not being on my foot 10 hours a day, 4 to 6 times a week. So I'm looking forward to being off, only working half days, working 8 or 9 hours a day, but having breaks in between, so I won't have to. Plus, I've started walking in the morning or in the evening, whichever I have. And right now, I'm walking in the morning because I'm not working mornings, but walking in the evening, walking in the morning, whichever one is more convenient. So that's just how I'm trying to, 6 years later, I'm starting, I want to focus on losing some weight, which I've lost 20 pounds over this year since January.
That's great.
So I'm really happy about really happy about that. I feel 20 pounds lighter. It doesn't really look like it, but I feel great, honestly. So the other nice thing that taking this last week off, just focusing on my, not trying not to focus on everything, just worrying about not worrying about things, letting things happen as they're going to happen has been pretty much a godsend. I really think I'm going to stabilize over the next couple of weeks, look for and work on getting back into the swing of things here in early November. So, I'm really happy with where I'm at. So I'm pretty content, honestly, all things considered, with everything that's happened over the last 2 weeks, and then hooking up with you and doing this, keeping my mind off things, just talking sports.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Oh yeah, I'm having a blast these last couple of days.
Yeah, it's been cool.
Yeah, it's been great. I've been having
Clippers.
Oh yeah, what's going on tonight? You have to keep me updated on the basketball. I'm not a big basketball guy.
Clippers Clippers winning. It's just first quarter. I'm ready for college football this Saturday and then NFL Sunday.
I like college basketball.
Yeah, that'll be good. Who's your favorite team? I'm a big UConn guy. Back to back, baby.
Michigan.
We're going for it.
Yeah, I'm a big Michigan guy, so
of course
Michigan's my bet. Yeah, Michigan's my university, so I root for Michigan and everything.
How are they looking in the top 10, top 20?
I'm just hoping for top 50.
Yeah,
competitive basketball. That's really what I'm looking for. Kind of play spoiler.
Yeah, that's got to be the bottom line this year.
Play spoiler back into the tournament as a 12. Win the conference and get into the tournament as a 12 or a 10, and try and go on a run and make a deep run in the tournament. But from everything that I've heard over the summer, the new coaching staff, the young guys that they were able to bring in this year, they have a feel of a team that's on the right track. I don't know where they're going to end up, but I just want to play competitive basketball again more than anything. Just be competitive and build back right. Build back better. Because the last 2 years have been incredibly frustrating. From a perennial
back there. You gotta just get
from a perennial Elite Eight team and a handful of Final Fours to basement dwellers has been really frustrating to have to deal with. And so I'm looking forward to some college basketball. I'm like I said, I'm more of a college basketball guy than I am a pro basketball guy. Playoff basketball, love playoff basketball. I'll tune in for playoff basketball. And but regular season basketball, it's
Pistons won opening night at home.
Oh, sweet. All right,
over
cool.
The Pacers.
There you go. Like beating Indiana, like beating Chicago, like beating Cleveland.
Nice.
Those are the three basketball teams that I root against.
Yeah, they all have different levels of annoying. Each fan base, each team.
Yeah. I really like beating Cleveland and Chicago. Indiana's okay, but Cleveland and Chicago.
Easy. It was easy earlier. I ordered burgers and stuff, from Amazon Fresh, but I didn't make them, so I was just making like turkey. Just because I'm kind of limited right now, I'm just elevated in my foot.
Yeah.
So
I totally understand.
Might cook something a little later. I don't know, but I kept it easy for now.
Yeah, I was super limited in the kitchen. I had to rely on. Thankfully, when I hurt my foot, I was living at home at the time, so my family was willing to cook for me. They made me food and brought it to me in the chair, so I didn't have to get up very often. The craziest adventure was the first time I went to take a leak after I broke my foot, and I still wasn't very comfortable on crutches. That was crazy. Oh yeah. I remember, so this happened, it was September 1st, 2017. I was on my way to work. I ended up staying home, took a shower, and I ended up waiting a little bit later than I normally would leave. And because I wanted to finish my pie, I waited like 2 minutes because I wanted to finish breakfast before I headed out for work. And when I when I was coming down the road, it was a 2-lane divided highway with a left turn lane, right? And I was coming this way. I was headed east, and in the left turn lane on the westbound side, there was a car, and I was about 1,000 feet out, and I was like, "Son of a bitch is gonna try it," and I just knew. It was just like a sick sixth sense. I just knew he was gonna try it, and sure enough, he turned just as I was coming, and I slammed on my brakes, and I clobbered him doing 52 miles an hour. And
wow,
shut my mouth. And it's like, because I knew I didn't want to get turned. I didn't want to get turned into oncoming traffic. I didn't want to get turned back into traffic. And it's like I knew this was gonna suck. Those are the last thoughts I had before impact were, the son of a bitch is gonna try it. Yep, he tried it. This is gonna suck. And I locked it down just as hard as I could. And I plowed into him. The last thing I saw before I opened my eyes again was the speedometer at 52 miles an hour. And I went from 52 to 0 in about 8 feet. And I came, not that I came to, but when I opened my eyes, when I realized, okay, yeah, I'm still all here. And they couple of people stopped to check on me, like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, well, I've been better." And some people, they got in the car to help, they got in the passenger side and were like, "All right, we're here for you." This one girl was a nurse, and it's like, I was like, "Okay." And like we called the police. They're on their way, and fire and EMS showed up, and the whole the front driver's side was all killed, and they couldn't open the door. Like they're like, "Okay, we're gonna have to pop the door up," and these other jobs were like, and I looked at them and I said, "Just go." And because they started this whole, they were gonna give me the whole spiel about the jaws of life. I already know what the jaws of life are. I watched too many cop dramas. I know. And so they were like, the firefighter with the jaws of life, he chuckled and he's like, "All right," he said, "Just go." So they popped that door up and yanked it and threw it aside. And like, "All right, we need you to sit up on your butt and slide over into the chair. Can you do that for us?" So like, "Yeah, I do that." So I put my hands down, slid over, extricated myself from the car. And once I got out, he took my shoe off. He's like, "I might have to cut your sock off. Is that all right?" I was like, "Yeah, that's fine. I have other socks at home. Not a big deal. I'm not attached to my sock." And he went, "Shit," or something to that effect. I'm like, "All right, load him up on they went load me up in the ambulance." And they went to put a brace on my foot for the ride up to the hospital. And I was like, I just screamed. I screamed bloody murder. It hurt so bad. I was like, "All right, stop. Don't worry about it. Drive slow. I'm not dying." And they're like, "All right." So they hit the lights and took off. And
wow,
it was only like a 3 to 5 minute ride up to the hospital. So it wasn't like I had to go an hour and a half. He's like, "We're going to start it." They started an IV of, is it Demerol, I think it was. And I'm asking all these questions, and the EMT tech in the back was like, "Are you a doctor?" I was like, "No, I just like to know, so that way when I get to the hospital, if things don't get, so that way I can communicate to the doctors in case things don't get communicated." So they wheel me into they wheel me into this they wheeled me into a waiting room, and they put me up, and they
I just got to turn the
came in.
off. I'm starting to cook.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm turning the camera off.
Yeah, that's fine. So we'll get out of here. Yeah, I was gonna say we're gonna get out of here in a couple of minutes anyway. So they take me into this waiting room, and start, like, okay, they asked me all about what happened. I told them what happened, and so they were like, "Okay, so we're gonna bring in a mobile X-ray." So I was like, "Okay, cool. That's whatever. Do what you gotta do." They gave me a dressing gown, and I got undressed, put this dressing gown on, and I made my phone calls. I called the I was with a temp agency at the time. I called the temp agency. It's like, hey, I'm at the hospital. I was in a car wreck. I'm not making it into work today. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. And then I called my mom's work, and I was like, hey, I need to speak to Sam. And it's like one of the only times I've ever used my mom's real name, and it still feels really awkward to this day. And they said, okay. And they gave mom the phone. I told her, yeah, I've been in a car crash. I'm okay. I'm at the hospital. And so then she's like, okay, what do you want me to do? I was like, just go home. You're fine. I'm fine. I don't know how long I'm going to be here. I'll call you when I'm done. Because I didn't know if I was getting out that night or if I was going to be held for observation. I had no idea what was going to happen. I didn't know if I was going to need emergency surgery or what all was going to happen. So I hung up on them, hung up with her, called my girlfriend at the time, let her know what was going on, called the house, let my brother know what was going on, called my dad's work, called through the office, called the office like, hey, I need to speak to my dad. And they're like, oh, okay. And so they went and got him, and he's like, hey, what's up? I was like, I was in a car wreck. I'm okay. I think my foot's broken. And he was like, okay. And he's like, is the car okay? I was like, nope, car's killed. It's like, son of a bitch. I was like, yeah, pretty much. And then so then after that got done, after I got done making all my phone calls and they x-rayed my foot, they're like, hey, we're just down the hall. If you need us, just give us a shout. Well, I couldn't get a hold of anyone because my foot started hurting again. I was like, I want another shot. And so I remembered there was a scene from Godzilla, the 98 Godzilla with Matthew Broderick. And I was like, if I dial 0, I bet you it'll call out. And so, or it'll call the front desk. And so I dialed 0 and I was like, and they're like, Gaylord Memorial Hospital front desk, how can I help you? I was like, hey, can I see the doctor again? And they're like, are you a patient? I was like, yeah, I'm in the waiting room and I don't have a call button. And they're like, oh, yeah, we'll get the doctor in for you, no problem. And because I'd already told it, because I told the doctor I wasn't feeling bad. I just, I'm not, I didn't want another shot, right? So then about 15 minutes later, I was ready for another shot. And so the doctor came back and he's like, need a trick with the phone. I was like, yeah, I thought so. So then they casted me up and sent me on home. And my dad was there to pick me up, so that was sweet. And that's my story. Oh.
That's cool he was there. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was.
Rough, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, I hadn't told anybody to come get me yet, and he showed up about like 5 minutes before they turned me loose. So it was great timing on his part because I wasn't sure how long I had no idea how late I was going to be in the hospital. I didn't want somebody sitting up there for 3 hours just being bored out of their mind while I was doing tests and getting checked and everything. So, thankfully I didn't have a concussion. I didn't break any other bones. So other than my foot, yeah, I was pretty all right. And mom was like, I felt like the worst mom ever. It's like, why? It's like, well, I just went home. I was like, yeah, there was nothing you could do. You're fine. I was hurt, not dead. There was nothing other than sitting there being worried. There was nothing that anybody could do. So they were better off being at home until I was ready. I figured because they were only a 45-minute drive from the hospital, from the house. So I had no idea when I was going to get discharged, and I didn't want them to be sitting up there till midnight when I had no idea how late I was, because I went into the hospital just after 3:00, and I didn't get discharged until just before 7 or just after 6:30. And when I went into the hospital, I had no idea how bad it was, how bad it really was. So I didn't want anybody else sitting up there just worried, waiting and worried. So that's That's my story.
Yeah, you put it right.
I just played it as best as I thought I could.
But good.
Yeah, yeah.
2-hour clip tonight. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, man.
See you tomorrow night.
All right, bud. So I'm just getting some food going. Yeah, of course, man. See you on the flip.
Until tomorrow night.
Show, man.
Absolutely.
All right. See ya.
And we're clear.